So there's a problem with Cold Steel 4, and this problem is its greatest strength as well. Cold Steel 4 exists on the shoulders of every other game that came before it. Unless Lloyd and the special support section did everything they could to save Kia, this game couldn't exist. Unless Estelle found Joshua and they became incredibly strong, capable bracers who were confident in their abilities and knew how to stand up against Ouroboros. Unless Prince Olivert had visited Liberl and saw how the bracers worked and looked to build something similar to that inside the educational curriculum at Thor's military academy. Unless Estelle and Joshua had found Rin and brought her home. Unless you'd seen Josette and her family pardoned by the Queen of Liberl. Now, I'm not a gatekeeper. Start wherever you want to start. Start at the beginning of any arc. If you want to start at the beginning of Sky, if you want to start at the beginning of Cold Steel, if you want to start at the beginning of Zero, no, just start at the beginning of an arc and play. But that is regardless. Like, you can play, and this game does a great job teaching you everything that happened and really the importance of these characters. Some of the characters that pop up in Cold Steel 3 and Cold Steel 4, like they give you enough information about them to still have a strong connection. But story-wise, unless all of those things had happened, the impact in Cold Steel 4 just wouldn't be there. There are so many other things I could talk about here, but this game is truly set upon the shoulders of all the previous titles. None of it would exist like it does without everything that had happened before. And honestly, that's what makes it the best. Every reunion you experience in this game pays off powerfully. Yet there are a few plot holes here and there that are frustrating at times. And yes, there are anime tropes, some of them painful, but it's all fun, I suppose. But it's an incredibly entertaining and touching experience that I'm so glad I invested so much time and energy into. Besides the epic team-ups with all of our heroes so far, I honestly think my favorite part of the entire experience was the game's first act. It stars a cast of characters I have quickly grown to love. Class 7 Special Operations. And a particular character I think could give Estelle, Lloyd, and Reen a run for their money if she were ever given her own game to star in. And that's Yuna Crawford. Yuna perfectly combines Estelle's optimism and energy, Lloyd's perseverance, and Reen's ability to motivate others. In Cold Steel 4, when she poured her heart out about her beloved Crossbell, and in Cold Steel 4, when she called out Campanella, it made me want to see Yuna continue to grow as a character and find her own place in the world. There's no way that upon graduation, she will not become a member of the special support section in Crossbell, if that's what she wants. I think my biggest problem with the stories, characters, and team-ups was the reason why, though. The Great Twilight, which was unleashed by Reen at the end of Cold Steel 3, became this annoying plot device that caused people to act like they never would, fueling the tides of war as the great powers on the Zemirian continent began to prepare for the ultimate battle that would end all wars, ultimately decimating humanity and costing millions of lives. It was without a doubt the greatest threat the good guys had ever faced in the series. It was also the most boring threat. The Great Twilight felt so uninteresting and kind of pathetic compared to everything that had come before. Reen's personal story and his ultimate moping for unleashing the Great Twilight seemed like a different way to express more of the same. The fact that Yuna felt more like a hero than Reen frustrated me, yet I just simply learned to embrace it for what it was. Yuna and Kurt were part of my active party from the beginning to the end because I think they're the most interesting parts of Class 7 in the series. Although I will say I did give the first act a second playthrough because it had been so long since I'd played the game before reviewing it, and Altina, surprisingly, began to grow on me. Despite all the flaws, this game is a true gem of the JRPG genre that everyone who loves epic team-ups and battles should experience. I think that this series is worth the investment, even if you simply start with Cold Steel 1 and work your way forward and then maybe backward like I did. One of the biggest complaints that you hear about this game is that the cast is so gigantic that it takes a while to get through the scenes where everyone has something to say. In fact, halfway through the game, there is this very long sequence of combat, story, and epic reveals that you cannot save through. You have to sit and commit. I loved it though. The drama and chaos unfolding between each of the factions, our heroes, the bad guys, and then Ouroboros, then the other bad guys. It's all interesting because it feels so heavy and the stakes are incredibly high for characters you've spent hundreds of hours with at this point in every other title in the series. The reason why you play this series is because of the epic moments with plenty of dialogue. And I just have to say, without spoiling it, if you've been a fan of the series up until now, there are incredible moments in this game that become these powerful, emotion-filled scenes that truly become core memories and core moments for this series that are unforgettable. I still find Ouroboros exhaustingly confusing and really dislike this enemy group. I really wish I could smack Campanella myself. Okay, don't get me wrong, they're fantastic antagonists. So much, I want to reach through the screen and slap them around. Cold Steel 4 does come to a satisfying conclusion with an ending that settles things in Erebonia, at least for a time. And despite Reen's mopiness being so annoying, and the Great Twilight being a MacGuffin that I found uninspired, I did enjoy the story because I enjoy these characters. But what about the combat and the gameplay? I will say I feel as if the combat in Cold Steel 4 was much more balanced than Cold Steel 3. I found it harder to break the game with cheesy builds, at least early on. I felt the need to actually constantly switch out characters who had quartz that were elemental weaknesses so that the battles would go faster. I can certainly see how deep and strategic each of these elements of combat would go on a greater difficulty where orders would need to be utilized to a greater degree. I appreciate the fact that even with the extreme amount of guest characters popping in and out of the party, you never really feel a need to grind as long as you're taking time to actually fight monsters on the field the first time through a new area. On normal difficulty, I only did a little bit of grinding near the end. I found myself often switching between all available party members simply because they had elemental arts or crafts I wanted to use. I also needed to heal a lot more than I had in the past. Cold Steel 4 is the first time I even tried to create an evasion tank, which is an incredibly satisfying strategy I plan to use in my playthrough through Reverie. Oh my goodness, always have an evasion tank, guys. One of the unique combat experiences in this game were the treasure chests that popped up on the map. Upon opening, you would be presented with a mini-boss of sorts. These fights require certain party compositions to actually complete, which requires you to actually use the character's abilities, orders, arts, and crafts to be effective. It's really opened my eyes to the types of team compositions you could have and their effectiveness. As your team regrows again throughout Cold Steel 4, the problem is you're often just going with what you're given. I made Fee an evasion tank, but when Fee couldn't be in my party, I had to make someone else my evasion tank, which meant rebuilding the quartz, changing my items, and this was the same for the healer or my main damage dealers. The constant swapping throughout the game, depending on who was in my party, became annoying, particularly because some characters have certain quartz limitations. All in all, I found the turn-based combat satisfying and a fantastic evolution of what the series has experienced so far. I will say that the systems of quests, side quests, and events in the game at this point have become repetitive. However, there is a boon with a very generous fast travel system. They're not repetitive in the fact that they're boring, it's just that I've done this a lot of times at this point. I'd like there to be something different. I feel like in Reverie and in Trails Through Daybreak, that's going to be the case. Once Reen is the leader of the party again, you have the opportunity to once again spend bonding points and get to know various members of the party more deeply, which gives you an opportunity to romance nearly every single female in the game. I strongly dislike the harem anime trope in this game, and would far rather character development for the ladies happen without the romantic part included. There's also just not enough points. You'd have to play through this game twice, 3 times, I don't know how many times exactly, to actually see everything there is. And I don't want to play this game twice. Once was enough. It was an amazing experience. Maybe I'll play it again when the backlog behind me's finished, but I just want to see it all. And it's stinky that I can't see it all without multiple playthroughs. At the end of the day, this game, this series, is all about connection. Connection between the characters, connections you have made with the characters. The power of connection is a major theme in this particular title. The power of connection is a major theme in this game, and the power of community represented in the story is something that should not be ignored. There are some incredible life lessons for all of us to learn from our heroes. I love this series so much. Trails of Cold Steel 4 was absolutely worth playing through, even with my complaints. And I would strongly encourage you, if you're interested in the series at all, to find a starting point. You can start with the Sky Trilogy, you can start with Trails from Zero, you can start with Cold Steel 1. In fact, Trails Through Daybreak comes out in just a few days. You could start there, in all honesty, and move forward. But if you love JRPGs, do yourself a favor, don't let it become overwhelming, find a place to jump in. Thank you so much for watching this review, and we'll catch you in the next video.